Hey there. So, wanted to say sorry about the edits. I've been using this new software people like the transcriptions. So, I put my video in this thing and it transcribes it and then I upload it, but it has this feature where you can click on it. It says remove silences. Oh yeah, that sounds good. But it makes real jerky cuts. And it annoys people, so I'll try not to do that too much. Somebody commented, yesterday though, I was really having a hard time getting any words out, and so there's a lot of and long pauses and stuff that it eliminated, which I was like, oh good, but somebody commented, when you always say, whenever you say you're having a hard time speaking, that's when the stuff is like the most powerful or whatever. And it is true that the way God works, His strength is perfected in weakness. And, we're kind of trained to believe that if God's really working, we'd get some kind of dopamine hit. Or we'd get some feeling, some rush of power, some feeling of... And there are times when that happens. But there's also a place, and we see this in 2 Corinthians, the real spirit and life that comes out, where it's not just a miracle, but it's actually God Himself working Himself into people to make them epistles of Christ through a ministry. That's in weakness. And Paul, when he talked about his ministry, he said, we are in fear and trembling. When we speak, our speaking is not, a display of bravado, but we are in weakness. And I kind of think I know what he's talking about a little bit, where all you're conscious of I know this just sounds ridiculous. That wasn't said very well at all, and I can't seem to get the words out, and why even bother? The enemy attacks us, and our flesh revolts against the Spirit. That's a real thing that has not changed since we got saved. Our flesh is not more acclimated to the Spirit. So when the Spirit is really coming out from the depths, you should expect your feeling to be, I have a treasure in an earthen vessel, the excellency of the power might be of God and not of man. We have to really just trust that the things we're saying, if we're speaking in a good conscience, and adhering to the word and not adulterating it with some secret agenda or something like that, that truth is coming out by the Spirit, and we've just put ourselves in His hands and trust the results. That's not easy for us to do because we're control freaks, and we feel like, well, no, I need to feel that it was specifically delivered a certain way, and I need to have this kind of sense of release. And I haven't been speaking up so much lately because I'm feeling like, there's a restriction where I just know it's not time to speak. But there's other times when I'm just really stumbling to get my words out. And I just suddenly feel really physically tired when I want to speak about the Lord. And I was fine before. Well, that's spiritual warfare. And in spiritual warfare, we're weak. We don't fight with our strength. We fight in weakness, depending on the Lord. And this does transfer into your life, not just speaking about talking before the Lord or speaking for Him, but there are many times when in your Christian life you just have a sense of weakness, where God is actually doing the most, and changing a situation and working something out together for your good, and you need some kind of breakthrough, something's got to change, and yet you can't even hardly pray about it. There's a desperation there, but there's nothing you can do, and you're just so conscious of that. Just resign yourself to the Lord. Present yourself to Him as a living sacrifice. Again, that means you can't do anything. You're on the altar. There's no, so many people try to say that's a reasonable service, and it's the beginning of a whole litany of good works. You submit yourself to God. No. To present yourself to Him as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable, means I'm on the altar, I'm one with Christ in His death, I'm dead with Him, and I'm alive, and yet I'm not getting off the altar. I can't do anything. I'm not getting up to go do something. I'm presenting myself as a sacrifice. Which means, that doesn't mean I'm presenting myself to suffer. It means I'm presenting myself as already having suffered. I'm done. An offering that's presented has already been slain. And I'm holy and acceptable. Again, I'm not presenting myself to be holy and acceptable. I am holy and acceptable. I present myself as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable, which is your reasonable service of worship. And it's reasonable because it has to do with the acknowledgement in my mind, agreeing with what is true, and my identification with Christ. And sometimes that's all you can do. And in fact, that is your reasonable service. So you're in the middle of a situation and you've got no say in what's happening around you, and you have no control over what anybody's doing or what the outcome is. Well, what can you do? Well, I present myself to Him. I'm dead. No matter what happens, Lord, I'm renouncing all my ability to control it or change it, or affect it, because I'm dead. And yet I'm alive unto You, and I'm here appreciating the work of Christ. No matter what things, how things turn out, I know I'm redeemed. I have peace with God through my Lord Jesus Christ. I'm standing in this grace. I'm accepted in the Beloved. I don't need things to necessarily go a certain way for me to have peace and joy, because my joy is because of You. I'm presenting myself to You. Knowing that You respond with yourself, and You respond to faith, not necessarily by doing something outwardly, but with yourself as the Spirit. When we operate in faith towards Christ, acknowledging exactly who He is and what He's done and what we have in Him, the response from God is the Spirit, which is the Spirit of sonship, which witnesses with our spirit that we are children of God. Also, that little verse, I beseech you by the mercies of God that you present yourself as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable, which is your reasonable service of worship, and be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is the will of God, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. What is the will of God? He says, well, I say that I say this so no one would think more highly of themselves than they ought, for we're all members of the body. And what he's really talking about there is everybody. This is how we're supposed to function as members of the body. We're really renouncing our rights, and our special this and that, and just we've come to an end to ourselves, and we have presented ourselves to Him. We know we're acceptable. We know we're pleasing to Him. We know we have Him. And so we come to the body, not seeking anything from the members because we're complete in Christ. And therefore, we're not fighting for our privileges and our perceived, I think you need to see how spiritual I am and all that stuff. That's all gone at the cross. And therefore, we can actually function in fellowship. The thing that blocks fellowship is all the self-interest, which causes us to maneuver in order to be seen as something before men more than we are. And we're not, that puts a layer of artificiality and pretense that eliminates transparency and the ability to really sympathize with anybody and really makes for church camp, where, this is one of the things I hate about the institutional churches, even apart from the pastoral system, which is unscriptural, to have one man speaking while everybody listens, especially since that person speaking is 99% a completely immature, easily offended little baby who doesn't know anything beyond barely the milk of the word, and his entire ministry is built on Matthew 7 and James. But none of that's scriptural. But the other thing is, even when the pastor leaves the room and you're left there with the saints, none of them know they're accepted in the beloved and how to rest in it. None of them have presented themselves as a living sacrifice. To them, that means something hard, and they try not to think about it. Sacrifice, because the religious babies have told them that sacrifice is hard, and that means that you're going to have to really give yourself to get some work done around here, give more money, and clean the bathrooms, do the children's ministry. That's what they think sacrifice is in the institutional church. No, the sacrifice is already done. I was crucified with Christ. Now I'm here with the acknowledgement that God doesn't want anything from me. He's not expecting anything from me. He's not impressed by anything that I do. And He wants me to be like that in front of people. And yet He accepts me, and I'm at peace. That's what He wants us to be with people. Well, when that's not present, and people are pretending like they're having fellowship, and that base is not even there, there's no fellowship. So it becomes a camp, it's just like going to camp with a bunch of people you don't know, and it's just all these activities, and you don't even really know each other anymore than before, because no one ever really opens up, because the whole thing is designed to make you perform and pretend. It's the way those systems are designed. You've got to pretend like you agree with everything the pastor says, and pretend like you see things in the Word that are not there, in order to just not be looking like a troublemaker. Pretend like you are as excited as they are about the meaningless things that they're doing, that they're calling God's purpose for your life. It's just a bunch of pretense. Well, that's one of the reasons why Paul said that God brings him into weakness as a minister. And he's a pattern not just to ministers, but to the whole body. He brings us into weakness to shave off all the pretense and any adulteration of the word, and putting forth a facade that we're something we're not. That's really rare, unfortunately, to find people in religion who are actually transparent. Everybody wants to prove that what they're doing shows that they're the most godlike spiritual thing there is, or that they're not as bad as they think that you probably think they are. There's that too, Well, they may have an inkling of what kind of sinner I really am. I gotta at least pretend enough so that they can't figure that part out, But there's a purity that comes out. See, we are defiled. If we're in the flesh, we are full of all the defilements. And our secret thoughts are absolutely atrocious. And a stink to God, And that includes, on top of it, our religious performance. So we got all these corrupt thoughts within and our religious performance without while we're in the flesh. Because by trying to clean your flesh up, you are now performing. You're performing before God. And it's a pretense because He knows you can't clean it up. You may be deceived into thinking you're cleaning up, but every motion you do to try to clean it up is a terrible, bad B-movie knockoff of the real thing. Like Hollywood does all these knockoffs of what were once really good movies, and now you've ruined it with some woke character that has replaced the hero. And now you've got this obnoxious rendition with bad jokes, and the characters they always have to water it down and take away all the moral fiber and just make him an obnoxious, self-deprecating fool. It's never like the original. And that's what we are when we're trying to clean up our flesh. He's like, that's not the movie I wanted to see. I came to see Jesus. And you are making a mockery, a satire of my movie. So what he does is sometimes he ratchets up all the suffering that we go through, and the demand is bigger than we can pretend. We can't pretend anymore because everything is too hard. I don't have the strength to pretend on top of it. And that is how he produces real ministry. It is not just being able to be eloquent and say things that sound really spiritual and are full of a certain kind of language. I talk a lot about Pauline language, how we speak Paul's language, and yeah, I love that language, but we're not just barfing out language while still using it to try to pretend we're more spiritual than we are and hide our real self. That's not the way Paul was. Paul put his real self forward and said we commend ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God. But the secret is that it was in weakness, because God delivered him over to death, delivered him over to situations that were too big for him. He said we even despaired of life sometimes. And those cause you to do the only reasonable thing you can, which is to present yourself as a living sacrifice and still believe you're holy and acceptable in spite of all the situations. To not be conformed to the world means I'm not thinking the way the world would about this in terms of gain and loss for me, and oh no, this happened to me and that means this is going to happen and that means I lost this. And no, that's the world that doesn't have an infinite supply. We're connected to an infinite supply who can make all things new every moment, so we're not limited by what we have, and when we lose it, we're not impoverished. So let's say we go through something that seems to cause us to suffer loss. Well, what's the purpose? The purpose is that you would present yourself to Him and be transformed by the renewing of your mind, by acknowledging who He is and what He has given you, and come to peace. And then as you're at peace, that's genuine, because it's formed by real trial and you're shaped by it and you're different now. Then when you interact with the body, you're really a functioning member, and something is coming out that people can relate to. That's the real thing. So I didn't know that's what I was going to talk about. I actually was getting on here to talk about the fact that I'm sorry about those edits that make my video jerky. and talking about how I feel so weak when I talk right now. I'm really struggling to speak. But the last couple times I've said that, people were like, that was the most edifying video you've done in a while. So I'm just trusting the Lord then. And I thought, well, I might as well speak on that while I was speaking. So hopefully that's edifying to somebody. God is not asking for our strength. He's just asking for us. He wants to be the strength. But when He's your strength, it doesn't always feel like it. A lot of times you are just conscious of weakness. And that's okay. How do you know then whether to speak if you're feeling so weak, or to do something if you're feeling so weak? You don't. And that's where we trust the sovereignty of God to say, okay, well, you order my steps. I'm going to put this video up, and just, I trust you. I didn't, if you don't do something with it, oh well. All right, take care.